Good evening, guys. Thank you very much. Emily, really, really good tonight. Really good. The present moment. We all need to be in the present moment now and again, don't we? Anyway, I've got another guest for you tonight. No, I've been finding it difficult to pronounce your name, your first name.
It's Kristi.
Kristi. Right. Okay.
Kristi.
Sorry, it's me. 1 minute I thought it was correct, and so it's Kristi. Okay.
Yep.
And tell everybody about yourself.
So yes, thank you. I'm actually Kristi Davis, and I am in Wisconsin, which is in the U.S. So obviously, when you look at the U.S. map and there's a cluster of lakes up in the north, that's me. So my husband and I own a lakefront resort up in the north woods of Wisconsin. And I am also a health and life coach. So that's what I do, is I spread love and positivity with people from all over the world.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And in your kind of like your health and life coach, what kind of coaching do you give people? Is it all different styles?
Ultimately, my coaching style is pretty much, universal, but I would say the people that I work with mainly are either entrepreneurs, business people that just kind of want to take it up a level in their career, or people that are really looking for self-confidence. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of us are looking for nowadays, is to feel a little more confident and self-love. So when I was getting into coaching and things like that, it actually started as health coaching. After my own journey of finding self-love and nutrition and things like that, I ended up losing a lot of weight, and I started finding a lot of personal development things, but I found my passion. So people started asking me what I was doing and how I could help them. And so I did become a certified vegan nutrition health coach. But then it started really rolling into people who were looking for their purpose and trying to get through toxic relationships and coming to me and looking for stuff. So that's when I became a certified insight life coach. And the difference between an insight life coach and the standard life coach is it's really not about me doing the speaking. It's about my clients doing the speaking and the deep thinking. And then I just ask them really great, powerful questions, and they just kind of get into deeper levels of their mindset and understanding why they do what they do. And sometimes we don't know why we do what we do. So I just come from a place of caring and compassion and love, and they start really understanding, what they truly want in life and how unlock those barriers that they're actually coming up against in life. And so that's really what life coaching is. And I guess for people to not even know what life coaching is, I can even explain that too. So with like traditional counseling and therapy, those are amazing, great professional tools. And those kind of help stabilize a person. But coaching is to help mobilize. It's really to get to point A to point B. Where do you want to go? A lot of people have dreams, right? We dream of having this, or we dream of wanting this, or having a dream life. But it just stays that as a dream, and they just think it's not obtainable. But ultimately, a dream is just a goal once you put action steps to it. And that's really what coaching is, well, what do you want? What do you want to create? Well, let's start creating it and just breaking it down into the action steps and the goals to make it become a reality.
Yeah, and really it's like a guiding hand, really, as well, isn't it? It's to kind of like take them through the journey.
Exactly, yeah. And I think a lot of people think that things are unobtainable. I'll never be able to do that. Well, it's really, if it's in your heart, all we have to get through is we just got to get you out of your mind, because that's, our mind is what really stops us. It's really not things that are unobtainable, but we are the first to talk ourselves out of it. We're the first to think of reasons why it's not going to work. But ultimately, if we have the right mindset, we can create so much more than we ever even could imagine.
Yeah. I've done a lot of TV and a lot of campaign work for obesity and stuff like that. And the trouble is, it's like when you're eating and stuff like that, it's all about your mindset. It's all
Absolutely.
about, what you eat. And and the trouble is picking up. If you want to eat rubbish, we all got choices, haven't we?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's even where it's all started for me was the eating part of it. I mean, I lost basically half of my body weight because I just decided that I needed to start loving myself. And I think a huge thing in society, we're marketed of weight loss, right? We're all
mm,
told, well, once we lose weight, then we'll get healthy and then we'll love ourselves. Then we'll be happy. But ultimately, that's not it at all. We ultimately have to start loving ourselves the way that we are and start just appreciating the body that we have at this very moment. And once we start finding that love for ourselves, we're going to start putting nutrient things and things that are good for us at the end of our forks versus the rubbish. And we're going to want to start feeding that love and that nutrition into our body. And in turn, we'll start healing our bodies. And when our bodies are healing, that's how we lose the weight. So really, we can love ourselves through the whole journey. And that's a huge thing I do with my health coaching is, I talk to people about this because so often we're marketed not to like ourselves. If, products, buy this product and then you can look like this
mm,
person and then you can be
mm,
happy. When ultimately we're not supposed to look like that person. We're not created to look like that person. We're
yeah.
created to be ourselves. So
What I
once we
want
start
to do,
falling in love with ourselves, yeah.
what I want to do really is it's kind of like go back to yourself, um,
Yeah.
about kind of like how you started off, because you said about that you were overweight and everything, and
Hmm.
and when you were overweight, was there a reason why you were overweight? Was there problems in your life, or was it because you were an aggressive eater, or did you have a problem with eating?
Yes, great question. So I actually was always overweight. I was the heaviest child in my class. I was always overweight and I was always on a diet. So I think there was a combination of things. I didn't eat always the best, but in the same aspect, there was plenty of salads and things in my life too, and I just couldn't lose weight. And it was very frustrating because there was, I did the whole, and I'm not sure, if programs are in, international, but like Weight Watchers and these programs that like you spent money to go to and you had to buy their products or you buy these
Yes,
pills. And it's like, I did every one of those diets and nothing worked. So, of course, my self esteem was low. And of
yeah,
course, when I'm the heaviest person in my class or as an adult, I walk into a room and you know what they're staring at. And they
yeah.
don't even give you a chance to get to know you because they're looking at your weight.
And what was
And
that
it's,
like? And what was that like? Um, because when someone is kind of like, they're going to school, you've got a lot of weight on, you go into your class, and all of a sudden people would they would take a mick at you, they take fun out of you. What was that actually like for you, kind of like facing with that?
It was devastating. I mean, and I went to small school. So I went through, from the age of 4 to, high school graduation with the same people my whole school years. And I got made fun of constantly. It was
Yeah,
constantly my best friend was thin and I was big. So they called us the 10 because she was the 1 and I was the big
yeah,
0. Things like that. I mean, like the constant, I mean, the ridicule, and then of course, trying to date and then having the no self-esteem and settling for anybody that would even, look at me. And it was such a degrading, lonely, sad time. And I was like the class clown. So I always felt that if I could have people laugh with me versus laughing at me, that would be better. But ultimately, I was so sad and miserable on the inside.
it's horrible, isn't it? When you're kind of like, see, the trouble is, we live in the world, I'm afraid, where there's a lot of stigma around. It's not
Mm.
just obesity. It's about color and creed and nationality. I'm sorry, but we just live in a horrible world.
Mhm.
But with you, it's like when you were going to school and you were being, kind of like picked on and everything. And did you ever go home and go, Mum, did you ever feel like really, really low? Did you feel any point of kind of like suicidal, say?
Oh, absolutely. And most people don't even know that about me. But yeah, there was points in my teenage years that I was definitely suicidal. I remember writing a suicide note, and I had it all figured out. But my family was also bigger, and I just I always, in the back of my mind, though, I always knew that I was destined for more. I always knew that just because of my size, it wasn't going to hold me back, even though it kind of did throughout my school years. And that's a big reason why I didn't even go off to college, universities, because of the fact of I wanted to end. Like I just wanted to be an adult and I wanted to get a job and I wanted to move on out of that torment that I was living in when I was in school. So ultimately, what I did in my early 20s, which is kind of crazy because I went from having a very low self-esteem to basically feeling like, why not? Why can't I do whatever I want to do? Even though I'm this size, I'm going to still go on and do something great. So when I was 22, I decided I wanted to own a restaurant because I loved working at restaurants. And of course, food was always around. And so I ended up building a restaurant when I was 22 and running that for 7 years until I was 29 with my sister. So, I still had that power within me to be like, no, like I still have a drive to do something great. And even in the restaurant days when I was doing that, I felt like there's more. There's more. My purpose is more in life than to flip hamburgers. Like, I want to go on and I really want to help change other people's lives too. So yeah, so I still stayed heavy. I mean, I was, quite large in the restaurant
When
days.
was, sorry, when was
So,
the point of when you said enough is enough and you wanted to turn your life around?
yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's actually great. So it was about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I was trying the keto diet, and I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's high protein, animal protein, high fat, low carb. So there was lots of animal products, lots of fatty things, but then no carb, no sugar. So the thought behind that is that you would turn your body into ketosis and that you would end up burning your body's fat on your body. And so I tried everything. So I thought I would try that too. And I got really sick. After about 4 months, I got really sick. I lost some weight. So I thought, okay, this is something that's going to work. But it got to the point where both of my legs were numb from the knees down. I was losing my hair. I actually got to the point where I was blacking out and I was losing my sense of speech. So I could think of the words, but I couldn't spit them out. So I went to the doctor to be like, what's going on? And they thought it was, some serious, illnesses or diseases happening with me, but they couldn't figure it out. So I prayed on it because I'm spiritual, and I prayed on it, and I found the documentary of Forks Over Knife, and it was about whole food plant-based eating. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of this before. What is this? And it's the science behind it is how no animal product, no dairy, all non-processed foods. You just eat that. You eat, fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, legumes, things like that. And that actually helps heal your body. And it shows like the science behind it. So I was like, okay, I've never tried this before. I'll try this too. And I switched over overnight. And within 30 days, within 1 month, all of those symptoms I was having were gone. I mean, I had the worst plantar fasciitis ever. And my feet feel amazing now. Like it was like 30 days. My body was healing from not eating stuff that we were told our whole lives. We're supposed to eat this stuff. We're supposed to eat, the meat and the dairy and all this stuff. And when I cut it all out and I just ate with natural foods, my body started healing, and then weight just started coming off. And it was very sustainable, which I thought that was so bizarre because I never was able to lose weight. I was never able to do any of this stuff. And all of a sudden just started dropping off, and I was feeling alive. I was feeling good. I had, it was this whole transformation I started having. So yeah. So then I was thinking, well, what can I do for exercise? Because of course, it's hard to run or all these other things that, people do for exercise when you're large. So I started doing yoga because I could stretch and I could bend and I could do things and at my own pace, and it wasn't competitive. And I found the love of yoga. And with that combined with my whole foods eating, that just did it. Like that found so much amazing peace that I had, and it just kept the weight coming off. And I found the love and the appreciation and the gratitude every day for life versus before when you're on a diet, you feel like you're beating yourself up and you're miserable and you see all the, rubbish that people are eating and you're like, oh gosh, I just really want that. when you're eating this way, you don't have those cravings because you've basically taken those toxins out of your body. So you're not addicted as you used to be. You know what it tastes like, but you're able to say, I'm good. I'm worth more. And so often when we see rubbish, we think, oh, I'm going to treat myself. Well, really, it's our addictive brain. So I really got into studying about food addictions because that's something nobody talks about. We don't talk about food addictions. We don't talk about, emotional eating. We just talk about going on a diet and then you'll be happy. And it's like, that's not the case at all. So when I really dug into food addictions, that was a big thing. And,
Yeah.
the addictive foods that we eat are sugar, dairy, and wheat. Well, that makes sense. When you're stressed out, you go for ice cream, you go for, things like that comfort you.
Yeah, it
Well,
does. Yeah.
addictive.
Do you did you kind of like eat to feel better?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I ate out of boredom a lot. I definitely would say that. And I still find myself eating out of boredom. Um, I would say that yeah, I ate for comfort. I mean, I think that's a big thing too because food doesn't judge us, right? And what it is when we eat the addictive foods, especially the sugary foods and things like that, we feel a sense of comfort because it releases the endorphins in our body. So we feel that and it's amazing because when we're eating for comfort and we're eating for food addiction, we're actually eating so fast. We're just trying to shovel it in that
Yeah.
ultimately we can't even taste it. We just ate something and we're like, how did I just finish that? And you're looking for more of it when really it was just the addictive part of our brain. We didn't even care about the taste buds part of it. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I've realized and that I definitely have worked to
How about
overcome.
how about if you were stressed? Did you eat more when you were feeling stressed?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I had a corporate job before I got into coaching and I would eat all the time at my desk. I had to say licorice is my drug of choice. So I love tearing apart candy, those kind of chewy candies. And I did that a lot when I was stressed.
Right. Okay. How about when you were kind of like you didn't feel really hungry, but you just ate it for the sake of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or you just said, okay, I think that's where the boredom came into play. Okay, well, it's that time. I should probably eat something. Or, especially when I went over to my parents' house, I walked into my folks' house and I would go to their kitchen right away. It was a comforting thing. It wasn't even because I was hungry.
Yeah. Do you reward yourself with food? Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, especially sugary food. Like you'd have a piece of pie or, cake or, things like that. Or especially, even if you're at the store, they always have the sugary foods right there by the checkout. And you'd be like, yeah, I'll grab that, and you eat that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. The trouble is with checkouts these days
Mm,
is you go to the checkout and they've got everything by the till, all the chocolates and all the candies, and
it is. It's the impulse buying. Absolutely.
of course it is. Yeah, and it's temptation.
Yeah.
Um, when you go shopping now,
Mhm.
and you and your husband go shopping, are you careful what you put in your basket?
Oh, absolutely. So I do majority of my shopping in the produce department, and then I'll go into the freezer department, and maybe I'll pick up some frozen vegetables. Um, there's not a lot of other things I buy within the grocery store, and it's funny because the amount of the food that I used to buy and compared to what I eat or what I buy now is drastically less because we don't need as much. My husband, he's not plant-based. He still eats meat and things like that. But we had an agreement that I just don't buy it. It just doesn't come into our house. And only when we eat out, that's when he eats the meat and the dairy and things like that. But he's even lost weight and he's even done a great reduce with things like that because he used to feel really inflamed. His joints would hurt every day. He'd get up and he'd feel like, oh my God, what I feel like got hit by a bus. Every morning he'd feel that way. Well, when we cut dairy out of our lives, he no longer felt that way. He doesn't have the aches and pains he had before. So ultimately, yeah, when I go shopping, I definitely don't, and if I'm hungry when I go shopping, I have to look in the produce department and think, okay, I'll eat a banana or something like that when I get in
Mhm.
a car. But I think that's a big thing is if you put it in your cart, it's going to come home. So you always have to be strong when you're shopping, and then that's the way you can continue when you get home.
Do you feel that you're more less emotional now what you used to be?
Absolutely. It's funny that you should ask that question because most people don't think of that. Absolutely. So, two things, because of course, like I say, I studied a lot of this stuff now. So, a couple things is dairy actually has hormones in it, whether we like have to stop and think about that or not. But ultimately, I mean, it's a hormonal food. It's breast
Yeah,
milk from
yeah,
from. So when we take on those extra hormones, it actually does put our own body's hormones a little out of whack. And they also say, I mean, when we have things like hormonal cancer, so like breast cancer, prostate cancer, things like that, things that are hormone cancers, it's because we're feeding excess hormones into our body. So really our emotions are a little off, and our hormones are a little off, and things like that. And also the addictive part of us. So if we're also, if we have a sugar addiction or a dairy addiction, and we're going through withdrawal, and we're getting cranky, we're getting ornery, and somebody goes, okay, well, here, the whole saying, here's a Snickers bar, take, give it, be happy, here's a Snickers bar. It's the fact of, it's because we're trying to feed that addiction, and then we're not cranky anymore because we're starting to go through withdrawal out of our addiction. So really, if we could start looking at food addiction as seriously as other addictions, it would be totally different. But society doesn't look at food addiction that serious. They think, well, we have to eat. Yeah, but you don't have to eat sugar and the crap that you're addicted to. But they just kind of give it a pass. But if we, had a drug addiction, people would take it more seriously.
oh yeah. The trouble is with the food business
Oh,
is
absolutely.
the trouble is with the food business. It's like a multi-million pound whatever, and the trouble is it's a big business, and the trouble is you cannot fight against the food industry. It's no way because they'll win. And the trouble is, I on a Thursday I usually have somebody with me, and she's like a coach for weight loss and stuff like that. And we've been kind of like fighting for years to kind of like get all the rubbish off all the shelves and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the trouble is, we cannot do it. No one possibly cannot do it. Jamie Oliver's tried doing it, and everybody else tried doing it. And the trouble is, because what it is, these supermarkets are kind of like saying, well, you can't do it because it's part of our business, and that's it.
Yeah. And that's honestly the truth, is the fact that the people that produce the food are subsidized by the government. So that's how we're able to get cheap, junky food. And then
Yeah,
it's also the fact that the cheap, junky food makes us ill. And then once we're ill, then that's where the pharmaceutical company then comes in. So it really is about greed and things like that. So ultimately, can you fight them? I don't know how that's going to happen, but we can start with ourselves. We can start
yeah,
with knowing ourselves of what we're putting in our own mouths and what we're putting in our own bodies,
yeah,
and also educate other people. I think that's a big thing ourselves too,
yeah.
because ultimately every time we have a dollar and we buy something, we're voting. We're saying, yes, I want you to continue to serve that product. And if that product sits on the shelf and nobody buys it, yet everybody's buying the produce, that produce department's going to get bigger, and that stuff on the shelf is going to start going away because nobody's buying it. So
The tr-
ultimately, it comes back
yeah.
to education of how we can serve ourselves.
The trouble is with obesity and everything is that here in the UK it's a big issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember did a documentary about it. And the trouble is with obesity, what they do is they say, right, okay, you're so and so, your BMI is so and so, you've got to go and get help about it. Fine, yes, go and get help about your weight, going out and and sort yourself out. But the trouble is, if they stop all the rubbish what they're selling in the supermarkets or at the fast food takeaways, that's on nearly every street corner in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
we won't have a problem with obesity.
Right. But I think in the same aspect, it's up to us to also take some ownership. So I don't do drugs, but yet there's drug dealers down the
Oh
street.
yeah, yeah,
Or I'm
yeah,
not a drinker, but yet I can buy alcohol anywhere I
yes,
want.
yeah, I can
So I think,
understand that.
yeah, so I think that's a big thing too, is sometimes we say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I drive down the road, I can smell the fried chicken. Like I can
Yeah,
smell
yeah,
it. But
Yeah.
it's the fact that I'm like, I
Do you
know
have
what it does to
children?
me.
Do you have
I
children?
do. Yeah, he's 12. I have a 12-year-old son.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let me say for example. So your 12-year-old comes out of school, okay, and all of a sudden across the road it's McDonald's. But at home, you've got him a nice fresh meal for him. Now, in your true self, what would he go for, your son?
Well, my son's not a huge fan of McDonald's, but I know what you're getting at. So if there was, another fast food restaurant, he would absolutely want that. And I understand that. However, he does have fast food, but I'm gonna say he has it maybe once a month. And it's also the fact that he knows what's in it. So he's even recognized it himself that after he eats it, he's
Yeah.
like, Mom, I don't feel good.
But
And I'm
see,
like, well, you know why? And he's like, I know. So I think it's also education in him too, to be aware of it at a young age.
but the trouble is, in the UK, schools, um, nearly every school, about so many meters away, there's always a takeaway
Mm-hmm.
by nearest school. Okay, and the trouble is, the law says now that they've got to be so many miles away from that school, the takeaways. And the trouble is, we've got a choice in life. We can either eat it or don't eat it. All right, and we all got a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble is, if they take away the takeaways and all the rubbish and everything else they get, all right, I don't think we'll have a problem no more. All right, there might be a big upheaval about it because some people love going to McDonald's or KFC or wherever it is, but to reduce the obesity problem, we've got to remove sorry, excuse my French, the crap off the shelves and off our streets. That's what that's my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, and I totally value that opinion, but I think again that those companies are billion-dollar companies. So
Yeah,
really, there's nobody that's gonna win over that. There nobody's
no,
gonna be shutting them down. So ultimately, again, like I said, it's we vote with our dollar, we vote with our education, we vote with things like that. So if we're able to overcome our food addiction, I mean, again, there's people that, I don't buy alcohol, yet it's right there. I don't
mm,
say you need to stop selling alcohol so I don't drink it. You
mm,
have to stop selling alcohol so my kid won't drink it. It's the fact that it's right there, but I need to educate myself and my son of what the damages that do to my body
oh
and
yeah,
what kind
yeah,
of dangers can get into it if you start drinking alcohol, where that might lead. So then,
yeah,
therefore, it's the same education with our food, but society doesn't look at the two the same. And I think that's really where we need to get stronger in, is educating ourselves and our kids that alcohol and the things that alcohol does to our body when we drink it in excess is the same things that's going to happen in our body when we eat the junk food into
mm,
excess. But it's so acceptable to eat the takeaways daily. It's so acceptable to do that, but it's not acceptable to drink alcohol daily. Well, why not?
mm,
Well, because it's socially distant. It's just socially different. Well, that's
mm,
the problem. You can drink alcohol every day and it can kill your kidneys and kill your liver and it can, cause all these diseases if you drink too much alcohol. But we talk about food and it's like, oh, well, just limit it. And then once you get diabetes or all this stuff, here's a pill. It's okay. It's okay. Just cut down on the
yeah.
calories,
But
right?
the
I
trouble is,
mean,
surely, right? If they got rid of this, if they got, I know you can't fight against the big shops,
mhm.
but if they kind of like got rid of this, it's like in schools now, right? Put it on the syllabus about obesity, about healthy eating,
Mhm.
right? Right. I've been trying to fight it for a long time, saying that put healthy eating on the syllabus, on the school syllabus, right? To say, you know, explain to them about obesity. Child obesity rates, right,
Mhm.
in the US alone, it's gone up to around about
Oh, it's
3.4
ridiculous.
million.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But ultimately, I mean, it's not just in schools. I mean, if if we had obese kids, 9 times out of 10, the parents are also obese. The parents are the ones buying the stuff for the kid because the kid's addicted and he will only eat the sugary cereals. My kids
Yeah,
won't eat
yeah,
anything but this. Well, they will if you feed them carrots. They're going to eat carrots. But when they say it's carrots or chips, they're going to, of course, eat the chips because that's more addictive. So ultimately, it does start at home of how we feed our kids and how we introduce food to our kids. But it's a cycle because right now, the people that are parents and adults, they grew up with the processed foods and the sugars, and they're battling their own weight issues. So really, again, I think it's an education thing. Yeah, we might teach kids in schools about fruits and vegetables, and they might come home and say, Mom, let's buy some more fruit. But ultimately, when they're looking against, sugary snacks that are, full of crap, or excuse my language, or, the fruits, they're always going to choose the processed stuff. They're going to have a meltdown because they're going through sugar withdrawal. The parents are just going to buy it and give it to them because they're like, they like it anyhow. It's okay. And that's where the whole cycle continues. And then, of course, all mixed in there is starting to hate yourself and look down at yourself and feeling you're not worthy enough because of this weight that you carry, when ultimately, it is an addiction. And if we could visually see alcoholism or addicted to opioids or drugs as clearly as we see obesity when you're addicted to food, that's the thing. But it's socially different. And that's what's so sad, because we need to look at it as justice. I mean, more people die of heart disease and diabetes than they do of drug overdoses. Yet we're all about say no to drugs and all about this drug stuff, but yet we're promoting, McDonald's and all this other stuff. So really, we need to start educating ourselves of understanding and looking at addiction the same way.
That's it. And the trouble is, everybody's got a choice, really. You can either, it's like with drugs, you can either take the drugs, put a needle in you, I'm sorry, but I'm a Christian person, and the trouble is for me is this, that I don't have I'm so sorry, you've got to forgive me for saying this, but people who take drugs, I'm against it. I'm totally against it. And the trouble is, you can either take it, or you can say, okay, I'm going to get the help. And if you're going to get the help about drugs, you've got to be seriously want to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not promoting drugs by any means, but I'm saying that we need to look at the same way, because if you want to be done with obesity and being ill and you're sick of being sick, then, that takes just as much will as overcoming drug addiction when you're overcoming serious food addiction, because that's how, we go on diets and we say, I need the willpower and I need, I fell off the wagon again. Those are same words that people use with drug addictions. So really, it's the fact that it's not about willpower. It's that we need to detox. And so often you hear calories in, calories out, and that's how you lose weight. So as long as you can budget your calories, you can still have this sugary candy bar. No, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing, because all you're doing is you're still giving your body a little bit of addiction. Well, it's ultimately what you're doing is it's like me saying you can only breathe every 15 seconds. Ultimately, at the end, you're going to start gasping for the air and you're going to say, forget it. Well, if we're just giving ourselves a little bit of the addictive drug, pretty soon we're going to start binge eating and say, forget it, I can't do this anymore. And we're going to go back to the way we were eating and say, see, I'm failed again. But if we take all of the addictive stuff out of our diet and we detox, and detoxing feels like crap. It does. You get headaches, you're nauseated, you feel like you have the flu, all because you're detoxing from sugar and dairy. How crazy is that? But once you keep it out of your diet, it's a lot easier then to look at it and say, no, I'm good, because I know what it does to me. And then go from there. Let's
move on, because you've had your weight problems and you've been sorted out now, and you're trying to help people. So what do you actually do? So do you kind of put people on a program, or?
Yeah. So ultimately I started, so my business is called Redeemed Coaching. And yes, I'm also Christian. So redeemed comes from Christianity, but then it also comes from, you can always do better. Like no matter how far off the path you've come, you can always come back. So that's where Redeemed Coaching comes from. And then my program, Redeemed Eating, is a subsidiary of that. So basically what I do is I help people understand what whole food plant-based is and kind of help them transition over with, I do virtual classes every Tuesday evening. I come live and I work with a group of my people, and we get on and we talk about emotional eating, the struggles we had this week, the things we've overcame, things that we talk about, those emotional things. And then every other week I do virtual cooking classes, because when I transitioned over, I remember crying in my kitchen thinking, I don't know how to cook anymore. I used to own a restaurant. I know how to cook, but I knew how to cook all the rubbish. I didn't know how to cook all the good stuff to make it taste good, So now I actually create recipes and I put them together. And so then we actually say, okay, like tonight is my class. And, we're making, this concoction dish. So I gave them this whole, list of recipe, this ingredients, and now we're going to cook it together. So then they can say, oh, that's how you do it, or that's how long you cook it, or that's how you, and so then they understand, they learn how to cook this way. But it's a support system, but it's also, a lot of times when you're in like weight programs, it's like, you get there, you weigh in, and they say, oh, you gained a pound. Did you expect that? No, actually, I didn't. I worked really hard this week, but thanks a lot. Like, it's not about that. I don't really even talk about my weight, because of the fact that if we're giving ourselves health, the weight loss is our byproduct. So if you lose weight, that's great, but we're really focusing on what's on the end of your fork, what's going in your mouth, and why are you eating it? And once you kind of get to that understanding of, I still look at cake and I say, I love myself too much to eat that. Like I literally have to say that, because so often we call cake a treat. It's toxin. It's literally toxic junk you're putting in your body, but we call it a treat because we're feeding our addiction. So you have to almost like twist it and go, no, I love myself too much to eat that. It's not a treat for me. It's not good for my body. So ultimately, that's what I do. I help people do that in my group coaching program. But then to take it to the next level, it's one-on-one coaching is what I do, because it really is understanding that we need to get to the deeper level of why we emotionally eat. Is it just an addiction, or are we looking for comfort? Are we looking for acceptance, and we don't get acceptance from people or ourselves, so we're getting acceptance from food? Like, why do we do this? So it's really getting to the next level is my one-on-one coaching is what I offer people. But yeah, and then I do a virtual, it's called Mindset Reset. It's a virtual program that I put together. It's a 21-day automatic program. So if people aren't comfortable, meeting with me or doing some of that, they can do it all at their own pace. So that's available.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So that's available. That's on my website on redeemedcoaching.com. I wrote a book. Here's my book.
Yeah. I was gonna.
So there's my book.
I was gonna ask you to come back, and I was gonna talk to you about that.
Yeah. Yep. So I've done a lot of things for people.
Yeah, brilliant. So guys, there you go. Let's come over to the questions now, and here we go. Hi. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed the chat. Thank you very much for coming on. I am Rob. I'm 32 stone. I'm going through a bad time at the moment. What can I do? I feel horrible sitting around all day, not doing anything. Don't really want to go to the doctors. I feel embarrassed.
So you're asking what my recommendation would be?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're feeling embarrassed and you don't even want to go to the doctor, and you feel horrible just sitting around the house all day long, I would start with finding something that gives you a little bit of joy. And when I say that, I don't mean escape from reality, because there's a difference. If you can sit there and binge watch TV or play video games all day, that's escape from reality. But if you can find something in reality that causes you joy, I think that's a big thing. Is if we start focusing on a little bit of gratitude in our life, that's a big step of turning things around. So I definitely would recommend that my 21-day mindset reset program. I definitely would recommend that. It's definitely affordable. I make it affordable so anybody can do it. And it's the fact that you kind of start understanding and looking at life a little bit differently, because the body that you have right now, I think we're so used to beating ourselves up over it. We see people doing things, or we see thinner people or whatever. But ultimately, if you woke up today, you can make it a good day. So it's the fact of, my grandmother was bedridden. She was morbidly obese, and she was bedridden. And it's the fact that she could lift her arms. Okay, well then I would say, Grandma, let's work on your arms today. Let's be appreciative that you could at least do this today. But it was the fact that, if you're able to do this, then do some of these, and you might feel winded after a while, but tomorrow you might be able to do this. And the next day you can, stand up or whatever the case is, but just give yourself a little bit of grace, but also like have some gratitude. So right now, if you're able to get up and walk to the bathroom, realize that's amazing. If you have a roof over your head, that's beautiful. You're not out in the rain. Like you have so many good things going for you, but it's so easy for us to slope down into the negativity than to look at the gratitude. And when we just start, waking up and just having those moments of, thank you for waking me up, is the first thing I always tell God when I wake up in the morning. Thank you for waking me up. And then I start just having the day of gratitude. Thank you for my warm bed. Thank you for the house I live in. Thank you for my husband, things like that. So I think just starting with the gratitude and then go from there. But yeah, if he would like to reach out to me, I would love to talk to you. So
Yeah. What we do, guys, there's so many of you on here at the moment, and we haven't got time. But what I will do, I will put the website up and everything, and we will kind of like get you to come back and kind of like talk about the book.
To. Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you. Yes, but yes, I do. I honestly, anybody that wants to reach out to me, I love talking to people and I love connecting. So don't hesitate. I know sometimes people think, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me. I do. So I would love to connect with you.
Yeah. Okay, so don't forget, guys, that wherever you're in life, what happens in life, we all have our sometimes we could be big, and we're going through a bad time and everything, but you're not on your own. There is help out there. All you've got to do is just reach out, and don't forget, we're always here. We've got counselors too here. And also, if you want to reach out to any of our guests, you can do. And we will put websites up, emails up, and everything. We do not give out anybody's number or private messages. We don't do that on here because it's all confidential to our guests. But thank you very much. That was really, really good. If you could stay there for a minute and I will have a chat.
No problem.
Guys, see you back in around about half an hour.